supposed to be a quiet weekend. Alex, Jenna, and Liam had decided to escape the suffocating chaos of the city and camp on Jenna's old family farm. It was Jenna's idea, a chance to reconnect with simpler times under the open sky with no phone notifications or the glare of city lights. The farm had been abandoned for decades, and no one in her family had returned since her grandfather passed away. The trio drove for hours through winding country roads, the landscape gradually shifting from industrial gray to a lush, rural expanse. By the time they arrived, the sun was low in the sky, casting the farm in a golden glow. The place was exactly as Jenna remembered it. Sprawling fields bordered by thick woods, the farmhouse perched like a forgotten sentinel in the distance. The house itself was in bad shape. Its roof sagged, shingles were missing, and the windows gaped like empty eye sockets. The front door hung crookedly on its hinges, creaking in rhythm with the evening breeze. Jenna had no intention of going inside, and neither did the others. They chose a clearing near the edge of the woods to pitch their tents, where the grass was soft and the air carried the faint scent of wildflowers. The first night, the sun dipped below the horizon as they set up camp, the shadows stretching long and thin across the clearing. A small fire crackled in the center, casting flickering light on their faces. They laughed and joked as they cooked dinner, the conversation eventually turning to the history of the farm. "My grandfather used to tell me stories about this place," Jenna began, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "He said it was cursed." "Cursed? Really?" Liam raised an eyebrow, grinning skeptically. "I'm serious. He talked about a stranger who came here a long time ago. Nobody knew where he came from, but he showed up one day asking for work. My great-grandfather hired him to help out around the farm. He was different." "Different how?" Alex asked, his tone more curious than dismissive. "They said he had a touch," Jenna said, her voice lowering. "He could fix anything, machines, animals, even people. But it wasn't natural. People said anyone who touched him felt off, like they'd been marked somehow. It wasn't long before weird things started happening. Animals died for no reason. Crops withered overnight. My great-grandfather tried to fire him, but by then it was too late." Jenna paused, her gaze drifting to the dark outline of the farmhouse. "What happened to him?" Alex pressed. "He disappeared," Jenna said simply. "One day he just walked into the woods and never came back. But after that, anyone who had touched him got sick. Some of them even died. My grandfather swore it was the stranger's curse. He always said we should stay away from the farm." Liam snorted. "Sounds like a bad campfire story." "Maybe," Jenna said, forcing a laugh, but her unease was palpable. The conversation shifted to lighter topics, and the group eventually settled into their tents for the night. Something in the dark. Alex woke with a start. At first he wasn't sure what had roused him. The fire outside had burned down to embers, casting a faint orange glow across the clearing. The night was unnervingly quiet, save for the occasional creak of the farmhouse door swinging in the breeze. As he lay there trying to shake off the fog of sleep, he felt it, a soft, deliberate touch on his arm. His breath caught. The sensation was cold, almost clammy, and unmistakably human. "Jenna? Liam?" he whispered, his voice barely audible. No response. He sat up slowly, his heart pounding in his chest. Unzipping his tent, he peered out into the clearing. The woods were still, their dark silhouettes pressing in like a wall. The farmhouse stood in the distance, its broken windows glinting faintly in the moonlight. Nothing moved. Convinced he was imagining things, Alex lay back down, but sleep eluded him. The second day. The next morning, Alex felt exhausted. He hadn't slept at all, his mind replaying the eerie sensation of that touch over and over. When he joined Jenna and Liam by the fire, he noticed Jenna eyeing him curiously. "Rough night?" she asked. Alex hesitated. "I thought I felt something, like someone touched me." Liam laughed. "Spooky hands in the night? Maybe it's the ghost of your cursed handyman." "I'm serious," Alex said, his tone sharper than he intended. Jenna frowned. "You look pale. Maybe you're just tired. This place can mess with your head if you let it. The day passed quietly, but Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. He found himself glancing at the farmhouse repeatedly, certain he saw movement in the shadows behind the windows. That evening, as they sat around the fire, Jenna told more stories about the farm's strange history, about workers who vanished without a trace, about animals found mutilated in the fields. The mood grew somber, the laughter from the night before replaced by uneasy silence. The third night, the touch came again. This time it was firmer, colder, and it lingered. Alex bolted upright, his breathing ragged. The fire had gone out, plunging the clearing into darkness. He fumbled for his flashlight, the beam cutting through the night. At the edge of the woods, something moved. It was tall, inhumanly tall, and impossibly thin, its limbs too long and its posture unnatural. Alex froze, unable to look away as the figure stepped forward, its movements jerky, almost puppet-like. "Jenna, Liam!" he shouted, his voice cracking. The others stumbled out of their tents, groggy and confused. "What's going on?" Jenna demanded. Alex pointed, but the figure was gone. "I saw something," he stammered. It was watching us." Jenna and Liam exchanged uneasy glances. The tension in the group was palpable as they huddled by the fire, refusing to go back to their tents. But exhaustion eventually claimed them, and one by one they drifted off to sleep. The final night, Alex didn't sleep. He sat by the dying fire, his flashlight clutched tightly in his hand. The bruises on his arm had grown darker, spreading like ink beneath his skin. Around 2 a.m., he felt it again, the touch, but this time it didn't stop. Fingers traced his arms, his shoulders, his neck. He screamed. Jenna and Liam woke to find Alex outside his tent, trembling violently. His skin was covered in bruises, each one resembling a handprint. "We need to leave," Jenna said, her voice shaking. But as they gathered their belongings, the farmhouse door slammed shut with a deafening bang. They turned to see the shadowy figure standing at the edge of the woods, its head cocked at an unnatural angle. Slowly it began to walk toward them. The last thing Alex remembered was the sensation of icy fingers wrapping around his throat. The aftermath. The campsite was discovered 2 days later. The tents were shredded, the fire pit cold. Inside the farmhouse, the walls were covered in handprints, some fresh and others ancient. On the floor, scratched into the dirt, were the words, "It's only human to reach out." None of them were ever seen again.